Yeah.
Okay, well, the high level idea is I see a lot of people doing um, video podcasts. Now, I think that was one of the main trends. If you weren't able to attend or didn't see the conference, one of the main trends now is going into video podcasting, and
Mm.
partly it's because of the rise of YouTube as a video platform. So I'm going to quickly go through, why you might do video podcasting and why you might use Zoom to do a video podcast,
Mhm.
some examples of video podcasts, and then how you can make a video podcast recorded in Zoom look like the professional ones you see on YouTube.
Mm.
Does
Perfect.
that sound good?
Oh, amazing.
Okay, so in terms of my qualifications, um, I'm not sure anyone is qualified to talk about this particular topic unless you've been doing this for a while. But I guess for lack of, like, if you've been doing like specifically turning Zoom recordings into video podcasts for a while, I guess that's my only claim to fame. So I was previously the head of AI for a company called StreamYard, and they were a tool used by many podcasters to create video podcasts. And then as well, I have been editing for about a year or so, and I've edited for over 10 podcasters, Zoom recordings into video podcasts for those clients. And so I've just learned best practices by doing it myself and then working for some clients. And then this is unrelated, but I have a background in AI. Unlike a lot of people that say they know AI, like I've been doing actual research in AI since 2010. I started a study PhD in robotics, and I have several papers published in the field. I have a patent, and I'm working on right now on a software company called Katana, with the goal of making it easy to turn Zoom recordings into video podcasts.
Oh,
And then do you have a podcast already?
I do, yes. And my podcast is called the Wise Dula Podcast, and it is on audio and video.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's on YouTube, and I record through Zoom, but I came today because I thought there are probably some tips about Zoom that I don't know that I need to play with to make it better. So that's why
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I have to check it out. I think this slide was more targeted towards audio podcasters, but just to reemphasize, I think the two reasons you'd want to be on YouTube or do video is that not organic search. Sorry, that's the wrong term, but to get discovered. So YouTube has a great recommendation algorithm where
Mm.
people who may be interested in similar topics will find your videos just
Okay.
based on the interests of content. So um, Apple Podcasts and other platforms are more like a directory. You have to get people to come to your podcast page for them to
Mm-hmm.
listen to or view your podcast, but YouTube will recommend your podcasts to other people based on their interests. So YouTube is a great platform for getting people that you didn't have to manually recruit to discover your podcast just based on the interests that they have. Um,
And they've been telling me that you need to really push the shorts, and it's something I have not done yet.
yes,
Um, mhm.
that's a good reason to do video as well. I don't This workshop is not about that, but I can also tell you or help about that or answer any questions about that as well.
Perfect.
Um, and then I guess why Zoom? So I think Zoom is not a podcasting tool. So there are tools that are dedicated for video podcasting. There are tools like StreamYard and Riverside and Ecamm. These are companies that presented at the conference, and they're designed and built for video podcasting. But a lot of people use Zoom because even though it wasn't designed for video podcasting, it was a video conferencing application. Everyone already knows Zoom. Everyone already uses Zoom. Maybe you have a company and your company uses Zoom, and I think one big point of Zoom is like it just works. Where stability is, you've never had an issue. I've never had an issue where Zoom just didn't record. It doesn't have audio visual issues, which can be an issue with some platforms.
Mhm.
The downside of Zoom is that the quality of the audio and video may not be as good as recording on a more dedicated platform. So StreamYard or Riverside will generally give you better audio and video quality. And then editors hate using Zoom. If you work with an editor to produce your video podcast, they'll hate it if you give them a Zoom recording, partly because of the fact that editors prefer having different audio tracks for everyone, different video tracks for everyone, because it makes the editing job a lot easier. So the point of this podcast, this webinar, and this workshop is to address the shortcomings of Zoom to make a Zoom recording look good. And I assert that you can do it easily with some free tools. We're trying to kind of address these shortcomings of Zoom so that you can get the benefits of doing Zoom without some of the costs for a video podcast. And just to give an idea of what a good video podcast looks like, I'm just going to play some clips from contacts I have at StreamYard. You may recognize my colleague here.
What is one thing you wish you knew when you started podcasting?
Actually had a podcast because I started back in...
I like that you said that you're watching video podcasts as if it was TV.
The word podcast has survived, and
let me skip ahead from the intro so you can see the actual episode.
Creating content, right? It can be a much bigger strategy. And I think now we're seeing kind of another inflection in the medium is this convergence between audio and video. Now, when podcasting started, it was both. It was about 30% video. Now that video was put out just like the podcast, the audio podcast is today. It was a downloadable.
What is one thing you wish you knew when you started podcasting? You're gonna say something?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think that the opportunity is there for new creators to get started, or ones that are currently doing some sort of online medium. So let's say they're doing a YouTube channel or they're doing content over on.
Okay, it's just that was like 1 minute of that podcast. That's called the Inside the Creator Studio. It's from StreamYard itself. And then here's another podcast called Zero to Marketer.
I can honestly, first time, you should totally check out Charlie's stuff because that is like the place to start. I can honestly say I don't think it has been going to lead you astray and not in the right direction. So thanks for that background, Charlie. That was really helpful. I was asking how you got started, but you kind of already answered that too. So
yeah, I was a touring musician and radio personality in Central Florida. I got caught up in this Hulk Hogan sex tape scandal, so I ended up leaving Sirius XM. I went to California, got sober, got a job doing data entry at an ad agency. They went belly up, started my own agency. We won AMC's The Pitch. My business partner fired me as soon as the contract was signed and the ink was dry.
Okay, so I just want to ask, do you what do you notice about these podcasts? Anything that pops out in your mind?
I think that visually, they're very attractive visually. The first one, the windows, each camera had like rounded corners, so it was very pleasant. And this one has that nice background behind. And then other than that, the audio is very stable. I'm hearing everybody coming through at exactly the same quality. So it looks very well packaged, and it's a very pleasant listening and viewing experience. The way it's, unless you're asking to make a comparison between the two, I don't know. I did like in the first one, I liked that the 3 windows showed up on the same screen, and yeah. Well,
I think you're exactly right. And so I think if I can quickly kind of go through what those are. So the three, when you have those 3, let me just go back. When you have the
what is one
was meaning actually there's
a lot of Rob talking. Yeah. So when you have this kind of framing, I think the number one thing that you're looking at here is kind of the branding and the visual design. So I think this is communicating like a film style kind of concept. It's kind of you see like the film grain as if it were recording in a studio. And so and you have the different cameras. The switching between 3 cameras and just whoever's speaking is something called multicam. And you'll see that both of these podcasts do that.
For those of you that like just ran off.
And the reason that you do that switching between showing multiple people and whoever's speaking is to keep the viewer's attention. That's the number one reason to do it. It's because if you just see the same two people talking side by side without anything changing, it's boring and people start to tune out. If you show the active speaker, so Zoom has a gallery view and it has an active speaker view. If you just show the same, like the active speaker, so it switches from me to you, that's better. But it's still just showing one person at a time. And it's not as good as this switching between the multi-speaker view and the active speaker view for keeping people's attention. It's to keep the viewer's attention. And what that optimizes for is YouTube watch time, which is what YouTube looks for when the primary thing that YouTube looks for when maximizing recommendation for your, like, it decides what to recommend to who, with the primary goal of a good video being watch time. So these are all optimizing for watch time. If you go look for any YouTube video podcast, if you look for any ones you like, just notice the camera angles, and you'll see this. You'll see that I'm not making this up. Go look at any professional video podcast, whether it's a remote podcast like this one or an in-person studio podcast. You'll see this happening, and that's for that. So that's the visual attention. Sorry, did you have a question?
I did, but I didn't want to interrupt you necessarily. But is that something you can do on Zoom? Because I have the interviews that I have, at first I did the switching windows, the active speaker, and now I do the side by side. And honestly, the side by side, it's boring visually. And then when I try to put those into social media, I don't like how small they are. So what you showed in the previous screen, is that something that can be done on Zoom, or is that something you have to do in post production when you're editing?
You can do that in post production, but I can show you a tool that does that. That makes that, like, it just does that by itself in one click.
Perfect.
And then I think finally, one of the last reasons that you might want to have video besides audio is to capture reactions. And so it's not just switching to cameras only to keep the viewer's attention. Sometimes you zoom in on the active speaker specifically to emphasize when they're making a point, or to capture the host's reaction to something interesting that the user wants to, the guest is saying. And so you want to make sure that the video part that you're doing emphasizes those reactions, and you're capturing the right view for the right reaction, and that communicates a lot more and a lot more interesting things than just just a side-by-side view by itself. I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, I said got you. Perfect.
And then some very simple tips. So the first thing that is not great with Zoom is audio quality. It's not Zoom specifically. It's more that people's microphones may not be great. And so when you're on a video conferencing call, it will not sound like one of these professional produced microphones. But that's not a problem in general, because there are some free tools that will make this really easy for you. And I very much hate Adobe products, except for this one. Adobe has one product which is really nice. It's the only Adobe product I actually like to use. And then what it does is you can just upload any recording. So I have a bunch of Zoom recordings over here, and I can just upload it. And they have a free version. I think there's a limit of how many you can do per month. You might have to sign in. And then I pay for the version so I can do as many as I want. But the result, it'll take about 10 minutes to process, but when it's ready, it'll look like this. It's the same old Zoom recording.
I think so. Bring in elements that I knew.
So can you hear the audio, by the way?
Yeah.
So it does not do anything to the video. It just leaves the video, but just listen to the difference in the audio.
Were true. but also not try to be exhaustive and the expert in that because it wasn't my expertise. It was really
Right.
allowing the experts to step forward and say, oh, it's not quite like that. It's more like this, right? Just fine. They are engaged in putting skin in the game that way.
So
Oh, wow.
hopefully you could hear the difference. The fact that
Yes.
it sounds so much better for free, and you don't have to do anything. You just upload it, just let it process, and then when it's done, you just download the video. It's like, this is why I like this one product from Adobe and like no other products, because every other product is incredibly complicated to use that they have. This one couldn't be simpler and very useful, very easy to use. So it's at podcast.adobe.com. I would highly recommend trying it out. I'm not like affiliated with Adobe by any means. I know a good product when I see one, and this was a good product.
And it's called Enhance, or no, it's just
podcast.adobe.com/enhance. I can share the link after the call.
perfect. Thank you.
And then the next one is video quality. So video quality is a little bit harder. So there are a few tools. If you look at tools out there, you can there's either paid software that's easy to use or free software that's hard to use. And there's only one tool that's both easy and free, and that's a tool called Free AI Video Upscaler. I want to be full disclosure in that this is my tool, but it's open source, and it's like you can see the source code for it. I built it specifically because of how annoying it was that there was no free, easy to use option. So you can see the source code on GitHub for anyone. Like, people have actually helped fix issues with my app because it's open source, so they can see the code and what's going on. But essentially, what you would do is you choose a Zoom recording, and then you can see it's making the video look clearer. If you can't see it through the Zoom recording, I'll just send you the link. Just upload a video. You'll see the difference. Say, for example, on Lindsay's face. It's just a simple thing, and then you kind of click save, and it'll start uploading the video. Or start processing the video. Nothing's being uploaded. It's just upscaling the video. So that's one easy way to upscale your videos, and that'll address the video quality issue that you mentioned. That's one way to address the video quality. There's other software. There's a software called CapCut as well that I believe is free, but that you need to sign in and you need to install something. So it depends on how much effort you want to go through.
Yeah, I have it. It's just I find it very confusing. I think I have to do a few tutorials to make sense of. I haven't used it enough. That's why I find it confusing. It's just a matter of watching some tutorials because it was recommended to me for making shorts.
Yeah. CapCut is a good tool for making shorts as well. So you have then the next thing is branding and layouts. And so to turn this into this, I'll show you two ways of doing it. So one is a tool called Clipchamp. So you would go to clipchamp.com, and Clipchamp is a very simple video editor. So it's designed for people that think that Adobe is complicated. That's people like me. I don't like Adobe. They're editor products. So here what you would do is you would go to create a new video. And then what you'd have to do is click on import media, and then choose the recording here. And then what you can do then is to crop the video to each face. This is somewhat annoying, but it can be done. And then what you want to do is to duplicate this, and then you have to move the face over here. Yeah, I know this is annoying, but it's and then you have two faces here. You'll have to choose one of them. You'll have to set the volume to 0 because you have two videos that are playing back now in parallel. And then what you can do is you can import any background. I have my own podcast background here. It's a PNG file that I created in Canva. And then you can just insert that here. This might be a little annoying. Hold on, where is it? You have to go all the way back here. I don't think it. Okay, there we go. You have to zoom in, and then you just extend the background all the way to.
Oh.
And then, so you have this view now, and so it looks a little bit better.
I think so.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the last thing you can do is you can what Clipchamp and Canva, some other softwares like this are good at is they have some generic content that you can import for free. And so one thing that they have that's nice is like borders. So for example, you can take I'll just take a generic white border, but they have some other borders that you can choose, and you can just literally just put it there and put a border around each frame. And depending on your branding, there's different kind of borders. There's some that change color, but just for the sake of genericness, I'm just gonna make this one look like this, and that's one way to very relatively low effort, I would say, make your podcast
I think so.
have some branding. Then you can add a logo in the bottom here if you want. So here's my podcast logo, and then you can just put that there. The timing is annoying a little bit because you have to deal with this timeline, but that's one way to do it. And then you have what I'm trying to emphasize is that this is not perfect, but it is it's doable.
Yeah. It reminds me of how you add things to the timeline
I
on
think so.
Canva. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think the other option for adding in these kinds of layouts and these kinds of visuals. Sorry, let me show you the visual. So essentially what you can do to create these kind of like name tag pop-ups and these like name tags, they call them lower thirds. Those are things that just pop up on the screen. Like for example, the title of the current section of the podcast. If you want to introduce like if your podcast has sections, for example, like now we're going to get into the Q&A section or something like that. You can relatively quickly create a name tag by going into Google Drawings or Canva, and then this is somewhat annoying, but I'll show you an easier way of doing it in a second. And then you can create a bubble like this, and it's otherwise very simply you choose a color like in pink, purple. I like purple, and then I'm going to put my name here. Actually, I'm going to put the name of that's a podcast from one of my clients, so I'm going to put her name there. And then you can choose the font, whatever you want. And that's one way of doing this. And then what you do is a lot of this editing software is a little bit clunky to do this kind of stuff, but the easiest way is to just download an asset as an image, and it has to have like a transparent overlay so you can overlay it properly. And what you would do is you would just then import that name tag from downloads, and you can put it This is the annoying part. I'm sorry. I wish Clipchamp were easier for this kind of thing. And then you would put that over here, and then you can choose like a fade in and a fade out so that it fades in when the
I think so.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, and then we can keep it.
And then you can adjust how long it's shown. So that was one way. If that sounded complicated, then I have some good news for you because I found I have a slightly easier solution as well. But if you want, Clipchamp has a lot of other editing utilities that, if you want to get fancy with effects and filters and things like that. The other tool I want to highlight is called Katana, and this is the full disclosure part, where this is a free tool that I am building, but it's free and you don't need to sign up for anything. And so I think the easy way to get something very similar done is to go to katana.video. That's the website. And then what you're going to do is, you're going to take another Zoom recording and you're going to upload it. And it usually takes about a minute or so to process. So I guess we need to wait a minute or so. And what it's doing in the background is just analyzing the video, detecting where the faces are.
And both Katana and the Clipchamp are free.
Yes, yes.
Awesome.
You also don't need to sign up for any of them. So sign in for any of them. So you can just get started with any of them. There's nothing to install. You don't need to sign up. That's why I like Clipchamp. It's very user friendly compared to Adobe software or even tools. I don't know if you've heard of tools like Descript. But
I've heard about it. I've heard a lot of people recommending it.
Yeah, so I think Descript has a lot of really great tools, and these are tools that Clipchamp and Katana will not have. So very fine-grained editing capabilities, but it's complicated to use. So you have to learn how to edit. It's definitely required. I'm a technical person, and I need to read up on tutorials on how to do things like adding a fade transition. And so with Katana, I think the main idea is you upload a video, and then
Aaron, it's so great to have you.
it'll auto generate the name tags, and you can. Sometimes the name isn't correct. Her name is Lindsay, and her name is Erin. It seems like the AI messed up on that one, but it's pretty easy to fix those. And then those will pop up.
I know you have so much design experience. You've been a design leader at some of the world's largest companies, and you're an executive coach as.
And then you can like one click change the background, so you can choose. There's some throwaway default backgrounds that I included.
Wow, so really honored to have you join us today.
You can also
My
upload.
pleasure. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Yeah, of course.
A PNG. And one thing that Katana does that other software won't do is that multicam switching that I mentioned. So if you
Those are two topics I would love to talk about today. The first one is how you apply human-centered purchase in some of your previous roles, and second is how you use storytelling skills to make a bigger impact. And also related to that, how you navigate ambiguity using design principles. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, great. So for the first topic, before we dive into.
And then just like the last thing I was just say is like if you want to add a logo, it's pretty straightforward to do that. That's it. And so I think that tool is called katana.video. And it's my tool, but it's free. And it's the other tool is Clipchamp, which is by Microsoft. It's also free, and you don't need to sign up for either of them. And I think both work pretty much the same way as far as like if the edit looks good, then you can just click on export video here, so you can choose the resolution. And same thing here, you can choose the resolution to export your video, and it'll start exporting. and then yeah, it'll take some time a couple of minutes to export the video, but then it'll be saved to your local videos folder.
Wow.
It's very much the same thing with Clipchamp. So if you do that, then
So your tool that you're developing or that you have developed is the same as Clipchamp. It has the
it's
same capabilities, or
it's a little different. So Clipchamp is a general editor,
mm,
a general video editor,
hmm.
and Katana is. So Clipchamp will have a lot of editing capabilities like fades and transitions and
Oh, I
filters
got
and things like that. Katana is dedicated to making Zoom recordings into video podcasts.
you. Mm-hmm.
So it's much easier to do some things like add in branding and layouts. And it also does this multicam that no other video editor software will do. But it's lacking some of the more uh, general capabilities of a video editor, like adding in a custom filter or adding in custom effects. That's other that those like Canva and even like Adobe software will have custom effects, but in terms of getting something that works quickly for video podcasts, like Katana is probably easier than the other softwares. But
And
you
the
can
other
try them. Yeah.
and will it do the switching between gallery and active speaker? Will the tool do that naturally, or do you have to tell it where to do it?
No, it does it by itself. Katana will do it by itself.
Katana will do it by itself.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. You can choose how frequently. So if you don't like it, there's a setting somewhere you can choose less frequently, more frequently when you do the switching, but it'll decide by itself. You don't have to configure anything.
Okay. But say I record an episode, and the first thing I would do would be to enhance the audio, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then enhance the video. So I would still use those two tools first.
Yeah, there's usually a good pre-processing step.
And then
I think
branding, I would go straight to Katana, or if I want to be more convoluted, I would go to Clipchamp.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, very good.
I I I am working on bringing in the upscaling part into Katana so that you don't have to do that extra step. So if you check back in a month or two, then it'll just have that built in.
Oh, perfect. The audio and video enhancing.
Yes. Yeah.
Very good.
I would say it's not there today, but maybe in 2 months. Basically, it's stuff I'm working on because I'm not doing this. I'm not trying to promote my app. I'm building my app to basically do what I'm doing. I've been doing all these steps in Clipchamp and other software and Descript, and I'm building the app basically to automate the best practice. So I've been doing this myself with Adobe, and because this is useful, I will eventually put that in my own app.
I got you. And are you planning to keep the app free as is completely done, or are you planning to keep a version free and then a premium version, or what are you thinking about?
Yeah. So whatever you saw will be free. I'm gonna add some premium features in the future, just like Clipchamp has some premium version. Those might include a feature like Opus clips, where you can directly just create some extra clips for repurposing out of your video. That will be on the paid tier. But the basic idea of I want the video podcast, I want my Zoom recording to look like a video podcast, it'll be free and you don't need to sign up for anything.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. That's amazing.
And then not to say that my tool is perfect. It's in beta, but it's free if you want to give it a shot. Otherwise, like if it's problematic, then and doesn't work for your use case, like I would rather not try to sell you on something that's not good or not gonna work. So there are other tools like Descript, depending on the use case, and I'm aware of other tools like StreamYard or Riverside that are also dedicated for video podcasting, depending on your setup.
Yeah, StreamYard, I did try the free version, and somehow it gave me a message that it didn't work with the MacBook, and I couldn't use it. I
Okay.
was super disappointed with that because one of my guests recommended it, but since then I've just been doing Zoom because I'm so used to Zoom, that
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. That's don't worry, that's why I built the software because I've been editing videos for people for a year now, and I kept hearing over and over again that people just like Zoom because it's easy and simple to use and it works. So I decided to not fight it and see how we can make Zoom recordings look good. That's the hence the presentation and then the tool. I don't know if this is helpful, but I have some. And you mentioned you weren't able to take a look at all of the resources, but I'm also happy to kind of share and try to pull together some of the resources from that conference to share if that's helpful.
Oh yeah, that would be super helpful. Yeah, yeah.
I hope this doesn't. Let me stop recording. Okay.